Minasan, ohayo gozaimasu. Kyou wa Nihon no gakko ni tsuete manabimasu. Hajimemashou ka. And yeah, I'll be good and switch to English now. Today, we're going to do a quick lesson about what schools are like in Japan, and specifically, we're going to focus on 12 interesting ways in which they are different from the experience we're used to in America. Before we start that, let me begin by saying that in most ways, they are very, very similar. Here, I'm showing you a picture of a Japanese classroom, and most of it should seem pretty recognizable. Students at their desks, a teacher at the board, and all that. Japanese schools have the same core subjects as American ones, with kids learning math, science, social studies, reading, and writing, while also having other familiar classes like art and PE. Also, I'm going to be teaching things that are generally true. But just as not every single school in America is exactly the same, there are some schools in Japan that differ from the norm. Having said that, the 12 facts I'm going to share are true for the vast majority of schools in Japan. Okay, let's get started. Fact 1: kids have to wear uniforms. Nearly every single school in Japan requires students to wear uniforms, with boys generally having dress slacks and a button up shirt, while girls would wear a similar shirt with a pleated skirt. Some schools in Japan use more old fashioned uniforms, which are based on old naval outfits like these kids. This might sound strange to American ears, but the uniform requirement is pretty popular, including with kids. One of my friends who teaches in Japan started working in a new school, and when all the students were anonymously surveyed on whether or not the school should require uniforms, more than 90% of the kids voted yes. Some of his students said it was nice not having to worry about what to wear each day or worry about what other people thought about your clothes. Fact 2: you never wear shoes in school. When you come into a house or an apartment in Japan, the polite thing to do is to take your shoes off. That probably doesn't sound all that strange since there are plenty of families in America that have a similar rule. In Japan, though, the same is equally true for schools. Right when you come into the school, there are little shoe sized lockers, and you immediately take your shoes off and put them in your shoe locker while taking your uobaki out. Uobaki are those white shoes with the colored tips, and they're soft and flexible and kind of like wearing slippers, but with better traction. They're more comfortable than shoes, and taking your outside shoes off is both a show of respect to the school and it helps keep the school clean. Wait until fact 7, and you'll understand why that's a big deal. Fact 3: every class begins with the student standing, greeting the teacher, and bowing to the teacher. They're pretty much ready to go before the teacher even shows up because, fact 4: teachers switch classrooms, not the kids. This is also what it was like for me when I taught in China, by the way. The classroom belongs to the class of kids, not the teacher. You would be in the same room with the same set of kids for most of the day, and when each period ended, the teacher would leave, and the kids would just get to hang out during the passing period for a few minutes while the teachers moved to their next classroom. There are a few exceptions for classes that require a specialized area like PE or a science lab with equipment for doing experiments, but for most of the day, you'd get to chill out in the same room while the teachers put in the legwork. So, what do you think these are? Fact 5: these are Sakamata, and they are available around many Japanese schools to be used as defensive weapons against intruders. They're based on ancient samurai weapons, and just like in our school, we practice fire drills, lockdown drills, and tornado drills. Kids in Japan occasionally have Sakamata drills. If we were doing this lesson in person, I'm pretty sure I can count on someone having their hand up and asking, well, why don't we do that in America? And the answer is that in America, we tend to be concerned with intruders who have guns, and using the Sasumata against someone with a firearm would be an incredibly poor decision. Guns are extremely rare in Japan, however, and the little violent crime that does happen generally involves knives. As a matter of fact, On a person for person basis, the murder rate in the United States is about 26 times higher than it is in Japan. So kids in Japan are, in general, pretty safe. Fact 6: kids eat lunch in their classroom. Actually, the whole lunch experience is very, very different. First of all, for all intents and purposes, every kid eats the lunch made at school, not one brought from home. Each week, a small group of kids from each classroom would go to the kitchen and pick up the meals that have been made for the students, politely thank the cooking staff for the hard work they do, and then, as you can see in the lower right hand corner, those kids will take the food back to the classroom and take the role of serving the food to their fellow students. Unless a student has a medical condition like diabetes, food allergies, or something of that nature, all kids get the same food. By that I mean each kid gets the same food as every other kid on a particular day, but a variety of different, carefully balanced meals are served on different days. And the vegetables are often grown by students in gardens at the school. Everyone is expected to eat all of what they are served, not because they'll get in trouble with the teacher, but because other students would find a student who wasted food to be rude and not someone they'd like to hang out with. The teacher would usually eat with the students, and the lunch period is usually longer than kids get in the United States for a nice, relaxing break. After lunch comes what many kids consider the best time of the day: cleanup time. Fact 7: students do all the cleanup. There are no janitors. Right after lunch, all the teachers go hang out in the teacher's lounge, and for the next while, the school is run by the students, who divide up cleaning duties by class and proceed to make the entire school spick and span. Classrooms are wiped and swept, halls are mopped, and every bathroom in the building is cleaned. I was completely serious when I said a lot of kids think that this is the best part of the day. Kids are allowed to take over the PA system and play their own music on it. The kids get to self organize and turn the entire job into a game, and everyone takes pride in the job that they do. Everybody would know which class was responsible for which section of the school on which day, and if that area wasn't cleaned properly, then the entire class would be embarrassed. It's a lot like how some of the kids that I've taught generally didn't take much pride in their schoolwork. But if you put that same kid on a sports team, they would give 110% so as not to let the team down. In Japan, your class is like your team, and the kids would look at someone who wasn't helping out the same way a football team would look at someone who ran backwards towards their own end zone every time they got the ball because they thought it was funny. So, what's weird about this class? I'll give you a second. Okay, this really isn't a fair question. What's weird is fact 8: in Japan, once you get to about fourth grade, there are no substitute teachers. If a teacher is gone, kids are expected to know where they are in the textbook and be able to take it out, read the lesson, and do the work to the best of their ability. The kids don't require an adult to watch them, and if someone in the class was acting inappropriately, that person would be embarrassing the whole class, just like Mr. Run the Wrong Way football player. So, who do you think has more homework? You or a kid from Japan? You may be surprised to learn the answer is probably you. Fact 9: kids in Japan have less homework, though the homework they have tends to be more in depth, projects that require research and things like that. The sort of work Americans kids do for homework tends to be finished in class. There is homework over the summer break, though, which leads us to fact 10. Their school year is much longer, clocking in at least 210 days instead of the 180 that's normal for America. Whereas our school year starts in August or September, the Japanese school year starts in April. Kids do get a summer break that's usually a month or so long, but that break comes in the middle of their school year, not at the end of it. So teachers will often assign projects to be completed over the summer break. Fact 11: every kid is pretty much expected to join a club. Clubs meet either after school or before school and usually last for about an hour each day. What club you join is up to you. Lots of clubs are sports clubs like baseball, football, which is American style football, track, tennis, swimming, softball, volleyball, soccer, rugby, judo, which is a martial art, and kendo, which is Japanese style sword fighting with wooden swords. Non sport options are called culture clubs and would include things like practicing the English language, art, broadcasting, calligraphy, which is traditional fancy writing in Japanese, science, math, and yearbook. Finally, fact 12, most kids go to a Juku or cram school. This is a separate extra school that your parents pay for you to go to on the weekends. Because in a culture that already values hard work and education to a really high degree, if you're not doing extra, you're not keeping up. This is especially important for middle school kids because at the end of middle school, kids will take a big test to see which high school will accept them. It's like how kids in America will take a big test called the SAT and submit their scores along with their grades and extracurricular activities to various colleges and try to get in there. In Japan, colleges tend to be easier to get into, and the real competition comes in trying to get into the best possible high school. Well, I hope you all learned something. The information in this video can be used to complete the Japanese versus American schools assignment that's waiting for you in Google Classroom. Once again, I've created a set of notes which you can unlock using the code word arigato, which means thank you in Japanese. Good luck on your assignment. Email me if you have any questions. And as always, stay safe and stay healthy.